September 1, 1939. Dawn broke over the Polish border as German forces unleashed an attack that would shatter a fragile peace. This was no ordinary invasion, it was the debut of a terrifying new form of warfare. The world watched, horrified, as tanks, motorized infantry, and air support moved with unprecedented speed and coordination. Germany's invasion of Poland marked the true beginning of a conflict that would rapidly engulf an entire continent, and soon, the globe. This new military doctrine, coined the Blitzkrieg or Lightning War, was designed for rapid, decisive victories. Its core principle was to bypass static defenses, punch deep into enemy territory, and disorganize command structures before they could react. Unlike the trench warfare of the Great War, Blitzkrieg emphasized maneuver and speed, making traditional defensive lines obsolete. It was a terrifyingly effective strategy that would reshape the face of battle and redefine the speed at which wars could be fought. After the swift conquest of Poland, a strange calm descended upon Europe. From October 1939 to April 1940, the Western Front saw little direct combat, earning this period the moniker the Phony War. Though Britain and France had declared war on Germany, their armies largely remained behind their Maginot Line defenses, observing and preparing. It was a period of tense anticipation, a deceptive lull before the storm, where both sides amassed strength and strategized for the inevitable next moves. The Phony War abruptly ended on April 9, 1940, when Germany launched invasions into Denmark and Norway. These were not merely opportunistic attacks, they were strategic maneuvers designed to secure Germany's northern flank. Control over Denmark provided vital access to the North Sea, while Norway offered crucial naval bases and protected the shipping routes for iron ore from Sweden, a resource essential for the German war machine. The rapid occupation demonstrated Germany's expanding ambitions. Barely a month later, on May 10, 1940, Germany struck again, turning its attention westward. Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg, neutral nations, became the next targets of the Blitzkrieg. This invasion served as a crucial diversion, drawing Allied forces north into Belgium while the main German thrust, through the Ardennes forest, prepared to outflank their positions. The speed and ferocity of the attacks shocked the world and exposed the vulnerabilities of traditional defenses against this new form of war. The invasion of the Low Countries was a feint. The real danger emerged from the unexpected direction of the Ardennes, a heavily wooded region previously considered impassable for tanks. German panzer divisions, spearheaded by General Heinz Guderian, sliced through, bypassing the formidable Maginot Line and trapping Allied forces. British, French, and Belgian armies found themselves cut off, pinned against the English Channel. France, once considered militarily strong, found its defenses crumbling with terrifying speed. With their backs to the sea, Allied forces faced annihilation. Between May 26 and June 4, 1940, a monumental evacuation unfolded from the beaches of Dunkirk. Under relentless German air and artillery attacks, a motley fleet of naval vessels, fishing boats, and private yachts, totaling over 800 ships, converged. This desperate effort, dubbed the Miracle of Dunkirk, rescued over 338,000 Allied soldiers, including a significant portion of the British Expeditionary Force, from the jaws of defeat. It was a logistical marvel, though a strategic retreat. The evacuation from Dunkirk, while a morale booster, did little to stem the German advance into France. The French army, severely weakened and demoralized, was unable to halt the swift movement of the panzer divisions. On June 14, 1940, German troops marched into Paris, the heart of France, unopposed. The city, declared an open city to spare its cultural heritage, fell with little resistance. This symbolic moment marked a devastating blow to Allied morale and the rapid collapse of France. Just 8 days later, on June 22, 1940, France signed an armistice agreement with Germany in the same railway carriage where Germany had signed the armistice ending World War I. This act was a profound humiliation. Under the terms, Germany occupied northern France and its Atlantic coastline. In the south, a new collaborationist regime, known as Vichy France, was established under Marshal Philippe Pétain. The fall of France was not just a military defeat but a profound political and psychological blow to the Allied cause. With France defeated, Britain now stood alone against the might of Nazi Germany. Prime Minister Winston Churchill rallied his nation, declaring they would never surrender. Germany's next objective was clear: gain air superiority over the English Channel as a prerequisite for Operation Sea Lion, the planned amphibious invasion of Britain. The battle for the skies would determine the fate of the island nation and potentially the entire war in Western Europe. The Battle of Britain began in July 1940, a titanic struggle waged almost entirely in the skies. Germany's Luftwaffe, commanded by Hermann Göring, aimed to destroy the Royal Air Force, especially its fighter command. Initially, the Luftwaffe targeted RAF airfields and infrastructure. The skies over England became a relentless arena of dogfights, a testament to the courage of pilots on both sides. This aerial campaign was unlike any seen before, a direct contest for air supremacy. Despite being outnumbered, the Royal Air Force possessed crucial advantages. Their sophisticated radar early warning system provided precious minutes to scramble fighters, preventing surprise attacks. Furthermore, RAF fighter command's integrated ground control system efficiently directed squadrons to intercept incoming raids. These tactical innovations, combined with the superior maneuverability of Spitfire and Hurricane fighters, allowed the RAF to inflict heavy losses on the Luftwaffe, even when facing larger formations. As the battle raged, Hitler, frustrated by the RAF's resilience, shifted targets. The Luftwaffe began large-scale bombing raids on British cities, a campaign known as the Blitz. London, Coventry, and other industrial centres endured nightly terror with the aim of breaking British morale and disrupting production. While devastating, this shift in strategy ultimately played into the RAF's hands, allowing their airfields to recover and giving their pilots valuable rest, rather than constantly defending against attacks on their bases. By October 1940, it became clear that Germany had failed to gain the necessary air superiority. The Luftwaffe had suffered unsustainable losses, and its bombers had been unable to decisively cripple British industry or morale. Facing mounting casualties and the onset of winter weather, Germany was forced to postpone Operation Sea Lion indefinitely. Britain had defied invasion, securing a pivotal victory that showcased the strength of defensive air power and delivered Hitler's first major strategic setback of the war. As the Battle of Britain raged, another nation officially joined the Axis cause. On June 10, 1940, Italy, under Benito Mussolini, declared war on France and Britain. Mussolini, eager to expand Italian influence and share in German victories, launched attacks against a collapsing France. Italy's entry immediately expanded the conflict into North Africa and the Mediterranean, opening new fronts and drawing Britain into a multi-theatre struggle, from the sands of Egypt to the seas of the Mediterranean. The burgeoning partnership between Germany and Italy was soon formalized and expanded. On September 27, 1940, Germany, Italy, and Japan signed the Tripartite Pact in Berlin, creating a formal military alliance. This agreement pledged mutual assistance if any signatory were attacked by a power not already involved in the European War or the Sino-Japanese conflict. The Tripartite Pact was a pivotal moment, officially linking the European and Asian theaters of war and transforming a regional conflict into a truly global one. As 1941 began, Germany turned its attention southeastward. In April 1941, Germany invaded Yugoslavia and Greece. This campaign was driven by several strategic imperatives: to secure its southern flank ahead of a planned invasion of the Soviet Union, to bail out its Italian ally who had suffered setbacks in Greece, and to gain control over valuable resources and strategic positions in the region. The Blitzkrieg once again proved devastatingly effective, rapidly overwhelming the defending forces and drawing even more of Europe under Axis control. With Western Europe largely subdued and his flanks secured, Adolf Hitler unveiled his most ambitious and fateful plan, Operation Barbarossa. On June 22, 1941, Germany launched a massive invasion of the Soviet Union, shattering the Nazi-Soviet Non-Aggression Pact. This was not just a military campaign, it was an ideological war, a crusade against Bolshevism and a brutal quest for Lebensraum, or living space, and the rich agricultural and oil resources of the East. The sheer scale of the invasion was unprecedented in history. Operation Barbarossa involved an astonishing force, over 3 million Axis soldiers, spearheaded by thousands of tanks and aircraft, surged across a vast front stretching for thousands of kilometers. This was the largest land invasion in history. The Axis forces included not only German units but also contingents from Hungary, Romania, Finland, and Italy, reflecting the broad reach of the Axis alliance. Their objective was nothing less than the total destruction of the Soviet state and the subjugation of its peoples. The initial weeks of Barbarossa were a stunning success for the Axis. The Blitzkrieg tactics, honed in Western Europe, proved devastatingly effective against the unprepared and poorly led Soviet forces. German units advanced hundreds of kilometers, encircling vast numbers of Soviet troops in massive pockets. Millions of Soviet soldiers were captured, and vast swathes of Soviet territory quickly fell under German control. The scale of the early victories suggested a rapid collapse of the Soviet Union, just as Hitler had envisioned. Faced with the overwhelming German advance, the Soviets adopted a desperate but effective to-scorched-earth policy. As they retreated, anything of value that could not be moved, factories, crops, infrastructure, was destroyed to deny it to the invading Germans. This strategy aimed to starve the German war machine and complicate their logistical supply lines, forcing them to operate in a barren landscape. It was a brutal testament to the no-quarter nature of the ideological war being waged. By September 1941, one of Germany's primary objectives, the city of Leningrad, was under siege. Hitler ordered the city to be starved into submission rather than stormed. What followed was one of the longest and most devastating sieges in history, lasting from September 1941 to January 1944. The population endured unimaginable suffering, starvation, and cold. The siege symbolized the extreme brutality of the Eastern Front and the immense human cost of the ideological conflict. As autumn turned to winter, the German war machine pressed relentlessly towards its ultimate prize, Moscow, the capital of the Soviet Union. The capture of Moscow was seen as the decisive blow that would force the Soviet capitulation. The German forces were exhausted, their supply lines stretched to breaking point, but the momentum of the Blitzkrieg seemed unstoppable. The fate of the Eastern Front, and perhaps the war itself, appeared to hang in the balance as the German spearheads closed in on the Soviet capital. In October 1941, the Battle of Moscow began. German forces, despite their rapid advance, started to face formidable challenges. Fierce Soviet resistance, combined with a sudden onset of the brutal Russian winter, began to take its toll. German troops, unprepared for the extreme cold, suffered from frostbite and equipment failure. Their logistical chains, already strained, struggled to deliver supplies over vast, frozen distances. The Soviets, familiar with the conditions, mounted a determined defense. The Soviet defense of Moscow was tenacious. Newly raised Siberian divisions, better equipped for winter warfare, were rushed to the front lines. General Georgy Zhukov meticulously organized counterattacks, pushing back the overstretched German forces. By January 1942, the German advance had stalled completely, and they were forced into a desperate retreat from the gates of Moscow. This was the first major German defeat of the entire war, a catastrophic blow to Hitler's vision of a swift victory in the East, and a massive morale boost for the Soviets and the Allies. While Europe and the Soviet Union bled, tension simmered in the Pacific. Japan, a signatory of the Tripartite Pact, sought to expand its Greater East Asia co-prosperity sphere, which brought it into conflict with American interests. The United States had imposed an oil embargo on Japan, critically threatening its war machine and imperial ambitions. Japan saw only one path forward, a decisive strike to neutralize the U.S. Pacific Fleet, thus securing its dominance in the region. On December 7, 1941, without a declaration of war, Japan launched a surprise attack on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Waves of Japanese aircraft bombed and torpedoed the Pacific Fleet, sinking or damaging numerous battleships and killing over 2,400 Americans. The attack was a tactical success for Japan, severely crippling the U.S. fleet, but it was a strategic miscalculation. It galvanized American public opinion and united a previously isolationist nation in a collective desire for retribution. The day after the attack, December 8, 1941, President Franklin D. Roosevelt addressed Congress, famously describing the day as a date which will live in infamy. The United States, after years of careful neutrality, formally declared war on Japan. The attack on Pearl Harbor had accomplished what years of European conflict could not. It brought the immense industrial and military might of the United States directly into World War II, fundamentally shifting the balance of power on the global stage. True to the terms of the Tripartite Pact, Germany and Italy swiftly honored their alliance with Japan. On December 11, 1941, both Germany and Italy declared war on the United States. This chain of events, from the invasion of Poland to the attack on Pearl Harbor, had now fully intertwined the European and Pacific conflicts. The war was no longer confined to continents or hemispheres, it had exploded into a truly global conflict, pitting the Axis powers against a now united, formidable Allied coalition. In just over 2 years, the conflict that began in Poland had spiraled catastrophically. The rapid expansion of Germany's blitzkrieg across Europe, the desperate defense of Britain, the brutal invasion of the Soviet Union, and the audacious Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, each event was a domino falling, escalating the scale and intensity. The world found itself divided, not by regional disputes, but by a titanic struggle of ideologies and empires. The stage was set for a protracted and devastating global war, the likes of which humanity had never witnessed. The Eastern Front, ignited by Operation Barbarossa, would become the largest and most brutal theater of the war. It consumed vast resources and millions of lives, disproportionately impacting the Soviet Union. The German failure at Moscow had prevented a swift victory, committing Germany to a grueling war of attrition. This front alone would determine the fate of millions and drain the Axis powers, setting the stage for future Allied offensives in the West and the eventual fall of Nazi Germany. Similarly, the attack on Pearl Harbor opened a massive new front in the Pacific. Japan's initial successes after Pearl Harbor saw it swiftly expand its empire across Southeast Asia and the Pacific. The United States, now fully committed, would dedicate immense resources to this theater, building a naval and air force capable of challenging Japanese dominance. The war had truly become global, with battles raging from the vast oceans to remote islands, far from the European heartland where it began. The rapid expansion of World War II from a European conflict into a global conflagration fundamentally altered the course of human history. Empires would crumble, new world powers would rise, and the geopolitical landscape would be irrevocably reshaped. The events of these initial years, from the dizzying successes of the Blitzkrieg to the desperate stands at Leningrad and Moscow, and the thunderclap of Pearl Harbor, set in motion forces that would define the rest of the 20th century. The world now faced a total war, with no end in sight.